In this video, we are going to show another example of a rate table, but instead of given the unit rate, which is the rate where we have hour as 1 and miles as the number, we are given a different rate. As you can see in this example, the first line after the labels or variables, I have the number 1 there in black. That is always going to be our unit rate. When you have the left column with the 1, that's our unit rate, which we'll talk about either at the end of this video or on another video. But what we can do is we can use the line or the row that has numbers in both the left and right sides to determine what the rate is. So the second line has a 4 and a 28 here. So if we read it correctly, it's 28 miles in 4 hours. Now we're assuming, since it's a rate table, that it goes at the same rate the whole time. So if this wasn't a rate table, you could go 28 miles in 4 hours. Maybe in the first hour you went 2 miles, the second hour you went 10 miles, third hour you went 15 miles, and then the fourth hour you went 1 mile. That's not a rate. What a rate would be if you went the same number of miles every hour. Because of that, we can use multiplication and division to determine what the rate would be. How far could we travel in 1 hour? So again, looking at our row with the 4 and the 28, if you remember from the last video, in between you could put a times to determine what would go. So 4 times what equals 28. If that's confusing, you can also go the other direction and switch the sign. So we can go 28 divided by 4, and that equals 7. So 4 times 7 is 28, or 28 divided by 7 equals 4. If we put the times 7 there in that row, we can do that in every one of these rows. We can do it there, there, and there. So now we go 1 times 7 is 7. So that's our unit rate. 7 miles per hour. So every hour, if we were going at the same rate, which is what a rate table tells us, we're going 7 miles every hour. Looking at this third row, we have 3 times 7. So after 3 hours, we would go 3 and another 3, 7, and then another 7, or 3 times 7 is 21. The last column again is the confusing one. Sometimes, so something times 7 equals 42, but if we're going from right to left, we can switch the directions, we switch the signs. 42 divided by 7 is 6, or 6 times 7 equals 42. So that's how we take a rate that's not the unit rate, convert it to the unit rate, and use it to fill in some of the missing values. I will erase this, create a new one, and have you practice. Okay, here is another rate table. I would like you to pause the video. I'd like you to either write this out on a separate piece of paper or maybe mental math and figure out what would go next to miles for 1 hour. And then given 50 miles, how many hours would it take using the row that has the number 3 and 30 in it. So pause the video, practice this, and then start the video and see if you are correct. Alright, hopefully you pause the video. So we look at this row, 3 hours, 30 miles. Again, we're saying that it's a unit rate or a rate so that it goes the same distance every hour. So we can either 3 times something equals 30, or we can go backwards. 30 divided by something is 3, so it's 10. 3 times 10 is 30, 30 divided by 10 is 3. So if we times that by 10, we times that by 10, we multiply that by 10, that gives us 1 times 10. So we're going 10 miles per hour. That's our unit rate, which is important. And then we use that to determine the missing values. If we have 50, what times 10 is 50? So the answer for that one is 5, or 50 divided by 10 is 5. So what I really want you to understand in rate tables is when you go from the left column to the right column, or right to left, or when you're finding missing values, you always want to think about it as using multiplication or division, not adding and subtracting. That just gets confusing. So if you can think about it as right times a rate equals left, or I'm sorry, left times a rate equals the right, or right divided by rate equals left. So 3 times 10 is 30, 30 divided by 10 is 3. So that's how that works.